My name is Olivia Parker. I'm 35, and for most of my adult life, I thought I was the calm one in every storm. I design buildings that stay standing when the world shakes, that's what I do. But nothing I ever built prepared me for the day I walked into my own home and realized the foundation of my marriage was already dust. It was a Wednesday just after 2:30 in the afternoon. I'd flown back early from a project review in Seattle after the client's CFO came down with pneumonia. My return was supposed to be a surprise for my husband, Jonathan. I still had takeout coffee in one hand, my overnight bag in the other, when I heard his voice drifting from the living room. "Don't worry, Dad. She'll never find out about the baby. The girl handled it." The words hit like falling glass. I froze halfway through the hall, fingers tightening on the cup until it collapsed in my hand, hot liquid running down my wrist. Jonathan kept talking, casual, confident, almost amused. His father's voice came through speakerphone, low but distinct. "Good. Last thing you need is Olivia finding out you were stupid enough to get someone pregnant. Career women don't forgive that kind of mistake." Jonathan laughed. Yeah, she's always so focused on schedules and structure she wouldn't see chaos if it stared her in the face. I stopped breathing. My husband, the man who'd spent months pretending we were trying to have a baby, was covering up someone else's. He kept going, lowering his voice slightly. "I sent the last payment yesterday. She won't be a problem." A payment. My stomach turned cold. I pressed my back against the wall, holding myself up like one of the pillars I'd drawn on 1,000 blueprints. In the space of a heartbeat, every late-night text, every client dinner, every sudden business trip rearranged themselves into a pattern I couldn't unsee. His father chuckled. "Smart boy. Handle it quietly, keep your head down, and in a few months no one will remember." I felt my pulse pounding in my ears. I should have walked in, thrown the coffee at him, screamed. But I didn't. Instead, I backed away one step at a time until I was outside again, the cool air slicing through my shock. My car door slammed shut before I realized I'd moved. I sat there gripping the steering wheel, the smell of burnt coffee clinging to my clothes. My reflection in the windshield looked calm, too calm. That terrified me more than the betrayal. That night, I checked into a hotel across town. I didn't call him. I didn't cry. I just opened my laptop and started searching for divorce attorneys. Logic before emotion, that's what my mentor always taught me. And yet beneath that logic, something ancient and furious was clawing to get out. When the receptionist asked for the reason for consultation, I almost laughed. Reason. Because I'd married a man who thought deceit was strategy. Because I'd spent years building a home for two and realized one of us had already moved out in spirit. Before I went to sleep, I sent a single message to my friend Claire, who handled corporate law but owed me a favor. "Need your help tomorrow. Personal matter. Urgent." I turned off my phone after that. Jonathan would call when he realized I hadn't come home. He'd probably assume I was at a meeting still chasing deadlines. Let him. The longer he stayed comfortable, the cleaner the cut would be. Outside the hotel window, the city hummed like nothing had changed. Inside, my world had collapsed so quietly you could mistake it for peace. The next morning, sunlight crawled across the hotel carpet like nothing had happened. I'd barely slept replaying that call in my head until the words blurred together. "She'll never find out about the baby." Over and over like static I couldn't turn off. By 8 a.m., I was sitting in Claire's downtown office, staring at a cup of untouched coffee, this time cold on purpose. Claire was one of those lawyers who could make a courtroom freeze just by raising an eyebrow. When she looked at me, she didn't ask what happened. She just said, "Tell me where to start." I told her everything. The phone call, the tone in Jonathan's voice, the laughter. I didn't cry, didn't even tremble. My voice was steady, like I was describing someone else's life. When I finished, Claire leaned back and sighed. "Olivia, this is going to hurt, but you're lucky you found out now. We move fast, we move clean." Her fingers tapped the desk. "You want scorched earth or quiet exit?" "Quiet," I said, "but efficient. I want out before he realizes what's happening." She nodded, already pulling out forms. "You still have access to the house. For now." "Good. We'll serve him in public. Somewhere he can't twist the narrative." That made me look up. Public. Claire smiled faintly. "You'd be surprised how fast liars crumble when they can't hide behind charm." By noon, the paperwork was drafted. Divorce filing. Asset freeze. Supervised property access. She moved through it like clockwork, the precision I'd always admired. I signed my name so many times it stopped looking like mine. Each signature felt like a paper cut, small, sharp final. That afternoon, I went home one last time. The air in the house smelled like cedar and betrayal. Jonathan wasn't there. He was probably at work, giving presentations or buying more lies. I took off my wedding ring and set it on the kitchen counter beside a single note. Heard your call. We're done. Olivia. Then I placed my key next to it. I didn't pack a thing. Not a shirt, not a photo, not even the necklace he'd given me on our anniversary. Let him have it all. Every memory was contaminated now. Before leaving, I opened the security app on my phone, the same one I'd noticed flickering the night before. It had captured the entire phone conversation crystal clear. I copied the clip, sent it to Claire, then deleted it from the system. I didn't need revenge, just proof. The next morning, Jonathan was served in the middle of the gym parking lot. Claire's process server caught him stepping out of his car, phone in hand, gym bag slung over his shoulder. The report said he froze mid-sentence when he saw the papers. Tried to laugh it off at first. There must be some mistake. The server had smiled. No mistake, Mr. Parker. You've been served. Have a productive workout. By the time I woke up that day, the message had already started spreading through our circle. Jonathan called me 12 times. Left voicemails alternating between confusion, rage, and faux sorrow. Liv, what are you doing? This is insane. We can fix this. Don't throw away 10 years over a misunderstanding. You're humiliating me. Do you have any idea how this looks? I didn't listen to any of them past the first few seconds. That evening, his father emailed me. The subject line, overreacting. Olivia. Whatever you think you heard, I promise it's not what you believe. Jonathan's under pressure. You're both professionals. Surely you can handle this privately. Don't destroy your marriage over something emotional. Emotional. That word did it. The same tone men used when women refused to quietly forgive. I hit delete. Then I blocked every number: Jonathan's, his father's, his sister's. I wanted silence. Clean air. Claire called that night. It's done. Papers are filed, time-stamped, processed. You're free to secure your property. He'll get 48 hours to collect personal items. Good, I said. Olivia, she added softly. You're handling this with impressive restraint. Most people would want to destroy him. I don't want to destroy him, I said. I just want the truth to stop living in my house. When the call ended, I looked around the small hotel room, half-packed suitcase, laptop, glowing in the dark. Everything I owned that mattered fit into a single carry-on bag. For a brief second, I wondered if Jonathan was at home, standing in that same kitchen, staring at my note. Maybe he'd replay that last conversation in his head the way I had. Maybe he'd hear the echo of his own words, she'll never find out about the baby. He was wrong. I did find out. And now he'd learn how quietly a woman could end everything. They thought silence was weakness, I whispered to the ceiling. They were wrong. It happened 2 days later. I was sitting in my office reviewing blueprints when my phone buzzed a notification from the home security app. Motion detected. Front door. I opened the live feed. There he was. Jonathan, standing on the porch with his father beside him and his younger sister Kristen holding a phone up like she was filming for evidence. Jonathan pounded on the door. Olivia. Open up. You can't just lock me out of my own house. I leaned back in my chair, watching through the tiny screen as he twisted the handle. It didn't budge. Then came his father's voice, sharp and furious. This is illegal. You can't change the locks on a married man's property. I turned up the volume just to hear Jonathan's tone, controlled rage wrapped in arrogance. Liv, we need to talk. You can't just ghost your husband because you're angry. He still thought this was about anger. That was almost funny. I texted Claire. They're at the house. Cops, she replied immediately. Already on their way. Camera recording. 20 minutes later, the footage showed 2 officers walking up the path. Jonathan stepped forward like a man rehearsing his innocence. Officers, my wife has locked me out of our shared home. I just want access to my personal things. The older officer adjusted his sunglasses. Sir, are you currently separated or facing a legal filing? Jonathan hesitated. There's a misunderstanding. His father interrupted. Divorce papers served under false pretenses. She's not in her right mind. The officer raised an eyebrow. Sir, our system shows the divorce was filed and papers were served on you 2 days ago. Until legal ownership is settled, she's entitled to secure her residence. I almost smiled, watching the color drain from Jonathan's face. Kristen cut in, voice trembling with frustration. You're enjoying this, aren't you, Liv? Watching us on camera. I didn't answer, but I whispered to the screen, more than you know. The officer continued calmly. Sir, you need to leave the premises. You can arrange a supervised pickup of personal items with your attorney. Jonathan took a step back, then glared straight at the doorbell camera. This isn't over, Olivia. You're making a huge mistake. His father added, "You always were too emotional to think straight." That word again, emotional. Always their shield against accountability. I saved the footage and sent it to Claire with one line, proof of entitlement. Add to file. That night I replayed the recording again, not for satisfaction, but for clarity. Jonathan's face wasn't angry. It was confused, like he truly didn't understand that what he'd done wasn't a minor error, it was the collapse of everything. Later, another notification buzzed security footage again. Jonathan had come back alone, just standing by the fence for nearly 20 minutes. Not knocking, not shouting, just staring at the house. For the first time since that day, my hands shook. I wasn't scared of him hurting me. I was scared of what version of him I'd never really known. The man who could lie, laugh, and still believe he deserved forgiveness. The next morning, Claire texted, "He's requesting supervised access this weekend. We'll be there." I typed back, "Good. He'll see exactly what consequences look like." The camera feed went quiet after that. For the first time in days, so did my mind. When people talk about betrayal, they make it sound like a single event, a strike, a knife in the back, one moment that changes everything. But the truth is quieter. Betrayal has aftershocks. It keeps rippling long after the first hit. The first one came the following Monday. Claire called before I'd even finished my morning coffee. "Olivia, brace yourself," she said. "Jonathan's legal team just filed for temporary reconciliation talks. It's a PR move, makes him look like the reasonable one." I laughed, a sharp sound that didn't match my face. Reconciliation. He's the one who lied, paid someone off, and hid a child. "He's banking on your silence," Claire said. "They're hoping you'll stay quiet so his version sticks first." She was right. Within days, the whispers started. At work, one of the junior architects cornered me by the copier. "Hey, Liv, I heard some stuff. Is it true you had issues that Jonathan left because you couldn't?" He stopped mid-sentence when I looked at him. There it was, the story Jonathan's family had spun. I was the cold, career-obsessed wife who'd driven him away. They even added a cruel twist that I was infertile and my resentment made me impossible to live with. By Thursday, HR called me in. "Olivia, this is probably nothing," my manager said, uneasy, but we received an anonymous complaint. Something about erratic behavior and emotional instability. We're required to follow protocol. I knew that tone. It was the voice people use when they don't believe the rumor, but they still file it just in case. I smiled politely. "No problem, I'll cooperate fully." Inside, something hardened. They wanted me to break, to look hysterical, to validate their story. They forgot I'd spent 15 years learning to hold structures upright, while the ground shifted beneath them. That night, as I walked through the quiet parking lot, I noticed my car. Long white scratches ran down both sides. Fresh, deliberate. $300 in damage. The cameras at the office garage malfunctioning, according to security. I didn't bother filing a complaint. Some things you document only for the record. I sent the photos to Claire instead. "Just keep a file," I wrote. "Already started," she replied. 2 days later, a message appeared from Ethan, one of Jonathan's friends who used to join our dinners. "Olivia, I know this is awkward, but Jonathan's a mess. He said you blindsided him with the divorce. Maybe just talk once he still loves you." I stared at the message for a long time before replying. He loved me enough to hide a pregnancy and a bank transfer. No response. Of course. People like Ethan never wanted to believe their friend was the villain, not when the villain wore a nice watch and a polite smile. But that wasn't the worst part. Late that evening, I got an email from an unknown address. The subject line, "Truth always comes out." The body was one sentence. "If you keep lying about Jonathan, everyone will know what you did." I stared at it until the cursor blinked itself into silence. Then I forwarded it straight to Claire. She called within minutes. "That's harassment. Don't engage. Save every message, every voicemail. We'll build the timeline." For a moment, I just sat there listening to her calm, methodical tone, like she was explaining weather patterns, not dismantling the wreckage of a life. "Claire," I said quietly, "what do men like Jonathan do when they start losing control?" She didn't hesitate. "They get sloppy. That's when the truth starts leaking out." Her words lingered long after the call ended. I couldn't sleep that night. Instead, I opened the shared bank account on my laptop, not to check balances, but to confirm what I'd begun to suspect. Scrolling through the statements, I noticed it. Regular monthly transfers. Small but consistent. All to the same name, Elena M. My stomach twisted. The name wasn't unfamiliar. Jonathan had mentioned her once, an ex he'd bumped into at a conference. I hadn't thought much of it then. But the timing, the first payment aligned perfectly with the date I'd overheard his call. I clicked deeper, tracing months of quiet transactions. Same amount, same day, every month. I whispered to myself, "You weren't hiding guilt, Jonathan. You were paying for silence." The next morning, I printed everything, every transfer, every date, and slid it into a folder. They wanted me to fall apart, I said aloud to the empty room. Instead, I found the blueprint. The camera feed loaded with a flicker of static before the image sharpened. There he was, Jonathan. Standing in the middle of the living room, I used to call ours, illuminated by the pale glow of the security light. His suit jacket was off, sleeves rolled up. He wasn't stealing or wrecking anything. He was just standing there, staring at the framed photo of us from our honeymoon in Santorini. For a second, the sight almost disarmed me. The stillness of it, the familiarity. Then he spoke. "You can't just erase me, Liv." His voice carried quiet but seething. "You think you're the only one who gets to control the narrative?" He walked toward the camera, toward me. "This is still my house, my life. You can't just shut me out." I took a slow breath and tapped the record button. The red dot blinked in the corner of the screen. He didn't notice. "I tried to protect you," he continued. "You wouldn't have understood. It wasn't about love. It was a mistake, okay? She needed help." She, Elena. Hearing him say it out loud felt like confirmation carved into stone. My phone buzzed in my hand. Claire calling. I muted it. Eyes locked on the screen. Jonathan ran a hand through his hair, pacing like a man trapped in a cage of his own making. Then suddenly he slammed his fist against the wall. "You think you can ruin me, Olivia? Fine. Let's see who people believe." He stormed out. The front door slammed hard enough to rattle the camera mount. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in minutes. My hands were trembling, but I hit save, exported the clip, and sent it to Claire with a single line. Caught him on camera admitting the affair. Her reply came within 60 seconds. "This changes everything. Meet me 9 a.m. The next morning, I walked into her office with the folder of bank statements and the new footage. Claire spread everything across her desk, scanning line by line. "Payments to Elena M.," she murmured. "Each month, same day, same amount. That's hush money." I nodded. He told his father the girl handled it. I think he meant she ended the pregnancy. But look, I pointed at one of the statements. These payments continued even after that call. He wasn't paying for silence. He was supporting someone. Claire's eyes lifted to mine. "You're saying—" "She had the baby," I said flatly. "And he's been covering it up ever since." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The hum of the air conditioner filled the room. Finally, Claire said, "We can subpoena medical and birth records if needed. But even without that, this is damning. You're walking into the settlement with proof of financial infidelity, deception, and emotional fraud. He'll cave." "Good," I said quietly. "I don't need him to admit it. I just need the world to see who he really is." 2 weeks later, the settlement conference convened. Jonathan arrived with his lawyer, Philip Rothman, and his father sitting stiff beside him like an advisor at a war table. He looked thinner, eyes hollow, jaw tight, but still wore that same smug calm he used to disarm people. I sat across from him, Claire on my right, the folder between us, like a loaded weapon. Philip started with his performance. "My client believes reconciliation is possible and wishes to resolve this amicably without unnecessary damage." Claire didn't even look up. "We're well past reconciliation. Let's talk about the damage he's already done." She slid the bank records across the table. Jonathan's composure cracked for the first time. "What is this?" "Proof," Claire said smoothly, "that you've been transferring money to Elena M., a woman you once dated since before and during your marriage. Would you like to explain the nature of those payments for the record?" Jonathan glanced at his lawyer, then back at me. His mouth opened, but no words came. Claire continued flipping to the transcript of the security footage. "And here from your own statement, she needed help. It wasn't about love. It was a mistake." "Care to clarify what mistake you were referring to?" The silence in that conference room was surgical. Finally, Jonathan spoke, voice low. "This is twisted. You're turning everything upside down." I looked him straight in the eye. "No, Jonathan. You did that yourself. You tried to bury a child and a marriage in the same grave." Even his father flinched. Claire leaned back, letting the weight of that sentence settle. Then she said, "Given these new revelations, my client will be pursuing a revised settlement, sole ownership of the marital home, full retention of personal accounts, and waiver of all spousal support." Philip rubbed his temples. "We'll need to consult." "Take your time," Claire said, her tone light as glass. When they stepped out, she turned to me. "That line you said about the grave, keep that one for the record. It's poetic. I managed a faint smile. I wasn't trying to be poetic. I was just done. An hour later, Jonathan came back, eyes dull. You can have the house. I'm not fighting anymore. I nodded once. No victory dance, no relief, just a hollow quiet that felt almost peaceful. As I gathered my papers, he spoke again, barely above a whisper. Do you ever think about what we had, Liv? I paused at the door. Every day. That's why I'm ending it. He didn't look up. I didn't look back. That night, I packed the last of my things from the hotel and returned to the house one final time, not to move back in, but to breathe it out of my system. The living room felt smaller now. The echo of our laughter had long since faded. I stood where he had stood in the video, looking at that same frame photo. For a moment, I almost pitied the man he'd become. Almost. You wanted control, Jonathan, I said softly to the empty room. Now you can live with the ruins. The email sat in my inbox like a heartbeat I didn't want to feel. Subject. You think you've won. Attachment. A blurry photo of a baby swaddled in a pale blue blanket. I didn't open it right away. I just stared at it the way someone might stare at a cliff edge, knowing one more step would mean falling. Finally, I forwarded it to Claire with 2 words. New development. 10 minutes later, she called. Olivia, don't respond. Don't click anything. Just forward me the full header so we can trace it. Likely him or someone close to him trying to rattle you. Her voice was calm, practiced. Mine wasn't. What if it's real? I asked quietly. What if that's his child? Claire paused. Then that's proof of everything we suspected. But it doesn't change your freedom. It just exposes his lie further. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Freedom. I repeated softly, like I needed to hear the word to believe it. Weeks passed. The divorce decree came through, finalized, with the heavy thud of a courtroom stamp. The house was officially mine. Jonathan had signed away his share without a fight. His lawyer filed a motion to seal certain financial details, an act that told me all I needed to know. Rumor spread fast. Corporate circles thrive on scandal, and soon Jonathan's reputation began to crumble under whispers. Someone leaked his affair. Someone else mentioned financial irregularities. Claire sent me a short message one morning. He's on leave pending investigation. HR sniffing around his accounts. I didn't reply, just closed my eyes and exhaled. Life after him was strange at first. I sold the house within a month. I couldn't sleep there anymore. Too many ghosts in the drywall. I bought a smaller apartment downtown. 900 square feet. 1 bedroom. White walls. Sunlight that didn't feel borrowed. For the first few nights, I woke up at 3 a.m. out of habit, half expecting to hear his voice in the hallway. Instead, there was silence, pure and heavy and healing. Therapy helped too. My therapist, Dr. Keller, asked me once, "What do you want closure to look like?" I told her the truth. I don't want closure. I just want indifference. She smiled. That's the real end of love, Olivia. When the person who broke you stops existing in your emotional vocabulary. One afternoon, while sorting paperwork, I came across the last envelope from the settlement, the check for the property division. I tore it in half and dropped it in the trash. Money couldn't buy back trust. It couldn't even buy peace. Peace had to be built like every design I'd ever drawn, slow, deliberate, stable. Months later, I saw Jonathan again by accident. A client dinner, crowded restaurant, late evening lights spilling through glass. He looked older, shoulders heavier, his once effortless confidence gone, replaced by something hollow. When he noticed me, he froze. I nodded politely. Nothing more, no hostility, no smile, just acknowledgement, 2 strangers who used to share a life. As I turned to leave, I heard him say softly, "You got everything you wanted, didn't you?" I stopped, looked over my shoulder. "No, Jonathan," I said. "I got what I earned. Freedom. That's not revenge. That's consequence." He didn't follow me. A few weeks after that, Kristen, his sister, sent me a message. "I didn't know everything. What he did to you, and to her. I'm sorry. He's not with Elena anymore. She found out about the payments, kicked him out. He's back at his father's." I read it twice, then deleted it. Not out of anger, out of disinterest. His downfall no longer felt like my story. Now, when people ask how I survived, I tell them the truth. It wasn't revenge that kept me going. It was reclamation. Taking back my narrative inch by inch until his shadow no longer touched it. Some nights I still hear echoes, his laugh, his excuses, his father's voice calling me emotional. But then I remind myself of something my therapist said, actions have gravity. They pull until they collapse, what orbits them. Jonathan's world collapsed because he built it on deceit. Mine stands quiet and steady because I built it on truth. I still design buildings, still draw lines that keep everything upright. And every time I finish a project, I think, this one won't fall, this one will last. The last time I checked the camera feed from my old house, it was to delete it permanently. The final image it showed was sunlight spilling through the empty living room. No people, no lies, no ghosts. I stared at it for a long moment before pressing